Buonasera, I'm Christopher Stewart. Disasters. We've had our share of those. Oh boy, have we ever had our share of those. I think the biggest disaster we actually were involved with was Fantastic Four. Some of you have seen this after all these years, somehow, some way. Some of you have seen this. I think I heard that they released it on the Sci-Fi Channel. I've heard they released it in several conventions. I actually found a copy somewhere that was hidden away on one of the places where Roger had sent off master reels, who then sent it up as a DVD and released it. If you can find a copy of Roger Corman's never released Fantastic Four, it's worth it. It really is. It's a fantastic film. But we had so many problems with that production. Oh my God. It's amazing we actually got anything accomplished at all. It literally is. We had an all-star cast who I still don't know if I can actually identify everybody in the film. I can tell you some of the cast because they can't do anything anymore. Because some of the cast is either dead or so retired that it doesn't matter because they're in foreign countries anyway, and no one could do anything regardless. But let me start with the biggest problem. What happened was Marvel Comics came directly to Roger Corman and they said, we want you to do a movie based on Fantastic Four. And Roger said, okay. And then they started coming up with a script. Then Marvel Comics started screaming about the script and saying it had to follow this, and it had to follow that, and it had to follow this, and it had to be this, and it had to be that, and so on and so forth. And literally it almost got to a point where Marvel Comics wrote the script and handed it to us. And I read that, and I said, Roger, you have got to contact these people. And I'm going to be there. And Roger said, okay. And we got into a meeting, and I said, gentlemen, I'm going to be such and such character. Okay? You may say, who cares? You're a teenager and you're a B-rated actor. I'm going to tell you, I'm not the only person in this film. Now, this film is going to star big-name actors. You cannot make a big star who's known worldwide say these lines. They won't do it. They'll improv over it. So you have got to give us leeway, because I can't get people to do this production if you say we have to stick to this crap. Now, this is our altered script, and I placed it on the table. And they read through it. And the writers from Marvel Comics said, this is better than what we could do. They should be allowed to do this. And Stan Lee said, all right. And so they said, okay. And they finally gave us an okay to go on the script. Now, we got actors from all over the world to come and do this. And in the middle of production, Stan Lee and Marvel Comics broke into us and said that they wanted changes made. And we were like, okay, what kind of changes? And then it turned out that what they wanted to do is they wanted to demand that every actor involved also sign a secondary contract that they would go and do conventions to promote Marvel Comics and the comic book of Fantastic Four, not the film. We were not allowed to even talk about the film. We had to promote Marvel Comics and their comic book. Now, several people had said, we won't do that. And there's no law on this earth that will allow you to say that we have to do that. Because that is an additional contract attached to an already signed contract that our agents did not agree to. Flat. Our agents did not agree to this. We will not agree to this. Our agents haven't even seen this. We're not agreeing to this. And I said, gentlemen, I've heard what the cast's opinion of this is. I'm going to tell you my take on this. My take on this is simple. Allow me to introduce myself. I am a teenager. That means I go to school. Because I go to school, there is nothing you can do by any law of this country, or any country thereof, to make a teenager leave school to do a convention. And if you attempt to bring me to a courtroom because you want a minor to leave school to do something, it's going to be laughed out of any court. Then they said they were going to go after the individual actors for breaking contract, and they would sue the individual actors. Roger Corman said, "International cast, good luck." Cast went on strike. Okay? There was at one point where the people from Marvel Comics were trying to find us, and we were actually standing on part of the set of Star Wars, hidden away in some back alley section of some God knows where place, like back lot of some hidden studio. And they couldn't have found us if they had tried. We were literally kind of like in a bunker kind of thing, you know? And at that point, they then relented. Seeing that they couldn't do it that way, they tried to go at another angle. They got one actor who played the part of Victor to agree to the contract. And he literally said, "Let me agree to the stupid thing and maybe they'll let us finish the film." And we said, "Cool." And he said, "Great." And then they tried to make it so that we had to change the production so that he was doing more in the film than he was actually doing. Roger Corman did 2 cuts of the film, one to please Marvel Comics, and one was his film. They showed it to the lawyers, and the lawyers said, "No, no, 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 you're not destroying a film just because you want to do something stupid. Roger, enough. We're going to stop this whole Stanley scream, and we are going to let you do your picture." And the lawyers left. So we did the production. Finally, we got everything done. Now, I'm going to tell you a few people in this production. Myself as both Reed Richards and the boy that finds the thing in the alleyway. The rubber suit actor of the Thing was played by Telly Savalas. The Mole Man King was played by the actor who plays the Emperor in Star Wars. The person in the Doctor Doom suit is David Prowse, with voice dub by Christopher Lee. The henchman of Doctor Doom was played by Peter Cushing and Roy Ward Baker. And the stoolie of the Mole Man, the #1 mole as it were, was played by Burgess Meredith. Everybody knows that Mrs. Storm was played by Carrie Fisher's mother, Debbie Reynolds. The Invisible Girl and the Blind Girl were played by Carrie Fisher. Now, I can't completely explain that because Carrie played not only the dual role, but her characters were also played by other people. The girl that was her as the blind girl who was captured anyone who's seen the film could probably figure out that that girl was in the movie Barbarian Queen, but we are not telling you who she is. As such, the girl that played the invisible girl in the wedding scene was actually a Sports Illustrated model, but we won't tell you which. I'm not going to tell you who Johnny Storm is, though you can probably figure it out really easily. And I'm not going to tell you about my good friend who I haven't seen since that production, whose name I have somewhat forgotten over the years, and he was using a stage name anyway, who played the main actor of Ben Grimm. And that was our production. So, I mean, literally, we had a complete all-star cast. Okay? And they were trying to go after us, and we were like, no, go ahead. So on top of all that, then we finally get everything done. We get everything finished. We're in dailies. And Stan Lee is watching me doing the Fantastic Four. And Stan Lee says, that has to be changed. And the lawyer said, what? He said, that scene must be changed, or this film is done. And Roger Corman said, what? And Stan Lee said, Christopher just looks too sexy in spandex. You have to change that. He was talking about a 1/10 of a second turn or less, where I, at the very end where Doom is falling, turn around and walk away. The scene could technically be cut. It's that stupid. But he was complaining because I technically, as a 16-year-old boy, I looked too sexy in spandex. So Roger Corman had to create a rubber butt to place in there so that I didn't look quite so sexy when I turned around for that 1/10 of a second clip that wasn't even necessary in the film. We go through all this hell, and what happens? We're done, the film is finished, we finally have everything ready to go. And Marvel Comics sues Roger Corman Productions. And it goes to court. And then we bring everything up in the courtroom, and we bring everything forward. And they settle it in a plea bargain because they know it would be thrown out of court. And the big company Marvel Comics scared the little company of Roger Corman. Quote Carrie Fisher, Roger, fire your lawyers. They're going to destroy you. They're going to kill you. You are better off without your lawyers. Just fire them, find somebody else. Okay? Why? In the end, Marvel Comics wins and the film cannot be produced. Roger Corman hides the master reels in a few places and says eventually they will be released somehow, some way. I was called in to the lawsuit during a plea bargain. I was asked to give my testimony. Then I was called back and I was told the decision. I had no say. I was told the decision. The decision was I was not allowed to work for Roger Corman Productions if I did not have an agent. Part of the deal that they signed was Christopher Stewart would leave Roger Corman Productions. Technically, I could have fought that then and had it thrown out by a court. It was pretty much the end of my time at that point. My agent had already sat there saying maybe we might be able to do one more film, but that's about it. And that was where I was sitting. So, you know, this was the end time frame right around about 85, 86. And I think it was 86 actually. So we just said, screw it. And we let it roll. Figuring if nothing else, someday or somewhere down the line, an agent would represent me and they'd figure out all this and they'd say, okay, and they'll contact Roger Corman Productions and they'll put an end to the stupid nonsense that happened. Okay? And that's one of the biggest disasters on earth.